Billionaire CEO's heartwarming reunion with stranded wife and triplets reveals a touching truth. Jack Mercer stared at his phone, eyes wide as fear clawed at his insides. The headline flashed ominously on his news alert. Billionaire's empire crumbles amid scandal. It mirrored the turmoil within him. He was the CEO of an innovative tech company, yet here he sat in his glass-walled office, surrounded by the chaos of a crumbling empire. Meetings blurred together, slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. Stress tightened his chest as whispers of revolt cascaded through the boardroom. This was supposed to be a time of victory, not loss. And now, to top it off, his family was stranded. The call from Anna brought news of a storm, a devastating tempest that had trapped her and their triplets in a small town miles away. Jack's heart raced. He was all ambition, all wealth, but they, his wife and children, lived in a world he scarcely knew. While he amassed success, they embraced life's simplicity, soaking in community values and familial bonds. What had I sacrificed, he thought, an urgent pang of regret cutting through his ambition. He felt the weight of his choices. Before he knew it, Jack was on the road, the glistening tall buildings of Silicon Valley fading in the rearview mirror. Isolation hit him like a wall. The triplets only knew the love Anna nurtured, while Jack often drowned in deadlines and numbers. Would they even recognize him? The thought sank into his gut, heavy and unyielding. His mind raced. It was a chance for redemption, but was it too late? Amidst his desperation to reconnect, a fresh wave of anguish swallowed him whole. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The drive only intensified his internal conflict. He envisioned the townspeople. Would they see him as a savior or a villain? The thought of facing their skepticism sent chills down his spine. Arriving, he felt the weight of distrust in every skeptical glance. Once they had cheered for his successes. Now he was seen as a symbol of the greed that had ensnared them. His polished image began to feel like a mask slipping away. Determined to rebuild bridges, he threw himself into helping the town recover, replacing board meetings with muddy boots and hard labor. Yet, surrounded by people who fought for survival daily, he felt even more like an outsider. Each hand he shook echoed the truth he had neglected. Wealth wasn't a shield, but a barrier. Adjusting to rebuild bridges, he threw himself into helping the town recover, replacing board meetings with muddy boots and hard labor. Yet, surrounded by people who fought for survival daily, he felt even more like an outsider. Each hand he shook echoed the truth he had neglected. Wealth wasn't a shield, but a barrier. In their resilience, he discovered a warmth he thought lost, a reminder that success was never just about balance sheets. As he finally embraced Anna and the triplets amidst scattered debris, the bittersweet moment flooded Jack with realization. They were strong, not because of his wealth, but because of the love and sacrifice that bound them together. But just as a sense of hope began to swell within him, Anna suddenly revealed a long-buried family secret, a truth that threatened to unravel everything he thought he knew. The delicate threads of connection began to fray, and with them came a creeping doubt. What kind of legacy had he woven? What had it cost them? Jack felt his world tilt, leaving him teetering on an edge, deeper into the shadows of uncertainty. Jack stood frozen, the revelation hanging in the air like a thundercloud. Anna's words echoed in his mind, each syllable striking at the intimate fabric of their lives. "There's something you don't know, Jack," she had said, her voice trembling slightly. The uncertainty wrapped around him like a familiar shroud. Would this knowledge alter the very foundation of his existence? For a fleeting moment, he longed to retreat, to escape the uncomfortable truth that threatened to upend their fragile reunion. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. Swallowing hard, he steadied himself. You cannot aid others unless you confront your own wounds first. His gaze shifted to his triplets, their innocent eyes gazing up at him, filled with curiosity. They deserved a father who embraced his vulnerabilities, not one hiding behind his achievements. "Anna, please," he urged, the desperation creeping into his voice. "What is this secret?" She took a deep breath, managing a strained smile before continuing. "It's about your father and mine. The way the family fortune was built. There's something dark in our history." Dark. The word struck deep, mingling with the doubt swirling within him. Could this be another layer of the empire he had fortified? This revelation wasn't just personal. It could resonate throughout his company, where public perception was everything. What would it mean for the board, for the employees who relied on his leadership? Distractions like these could topple his empire for good. Yet it was time for an awakening. Jack felt a pulse of resolve surge within him. His professional identity had always been intertwined with the facade of perfection, the relentless pursuit of success blind to its roots. But this was about far more than power and prestige. It was about integrity, honesty, and rebuilding not just for himself, but for Anna and the kids. "Whatever it is, I need to know." He glanced at his wife, ushering a sense of trust. "Together we can face it." Their conversation drew others closer, curious onlookers who had initially remained distant. As he opened up to Anna, he slowly turned toward the townspeople who stood by, a collective audience unknowingly tethered to his story. Through this, Jack felt layers peel back, revealing vulnerabilities he'd long buried beneath his corporate armor. Confronting the truth about his family not only shook the foundations of his personal life, but illuminated cracks within his professional world. Power, he realized, could flourish only when rooted in authenticity and truth. The camaraderie he forged with the townsfolk became not merely a diversion from corporate chaos, but an avenue towards redefining what it meant to lead. As night fell, the winds picked up again, stirring memories deep within him. The chilly gusts carried fragments of his past that had remained unexamined. Long-buried truths intermingled with his understanding of familial love, paving the way to healing. Amidst the ruin, he began to feel a shift, a burgeoning sense of clarity aligning his values with resolved action. As steadfast as he felt, the looming questions danced around him, relentless. Would confronting this past provide the key to redeeming himself with Anna and his children? Or would it unearth further discord hiding in the corners of his life? Jack took a deep breath, prepared to untangle both the familial ties and the shifting dynamics at his company. But just then, he heard a child's voice calling his name. It belonged to one of the triplets, tugging at his heartstrings. "Daddy, come play with us," he was beckoned, innocence breaking through the darkening clouds of worry. Hesitation washed over him, but it dissipated quickly, replaced by a fervent desire to connect, to be not just the image of a successful CEO, but the father he had yet to truly embody. "Absolutely," he exclaimed, kneeling to embrace the moment, recognizing this could be the turning point he so desperately needed. But in the back of his mind remained an unsettling thought, gnawing at his resolve. What new truths lay beyond this tender moment, waiting to be unveiled? As Jack joined his children, their laughter and innocent delight enveloped him in a cocoon of warmth, momentarily shielding him from the icy grip of uncertainty. He tossed a ball into the air, catching it with the effortless motions of a man embracing a fleeting joy. The vibrant energy pulsing through his triplets reinvigorated his spirit, momentarily pushing aside the larger storm brewing in his mind. Yet, as he played, the undercurrents of his responsibility tugged at him. Beneath the buoyant surface, whispers of Anna's secrets slithered into his thoughts, igniting questions that might not remain hidden for long. He might have been a father in that moment, but he was also a leader, a steward of a legacy that felt increasingly fragile. "Daddy, throw it higher," one of the triplets squealed, eyes wide with excitement. Jack obliged, his heart lightening, if only for a few seconds. But the serene illusion shattered when Anna walked into his line of vision. The haunting memory of her earlier words echoed louder than the children's giggles. There was a boundary between who he had been, an unwavering authoritarian figure in the boardroom, and who he must strive to be in this intimate setting with his family. After several rounds of play, Jack found a bench nearby, beckoning Anna to join him. As she leaned against the wooden slats, her expression was a kaleidoscope of uncertainty and steely resolve that mirrored his internal battle. "Jack," she began, her voice steady but tinged with an underlying vulnerability, "I realize how heavy this is, but facing the past, your past, is essential for us to move forward together." He met her gaze, feeling the weight of her concern slide into the space between them. "What if uncovering these dark corners only deepens the divide?" he asked, scrambling for reassurance. The ground under his professional empire felt unstable as doubts threaded through his thoughts. Anna shook her head gently, a resolute strength in her stance. "Ignorance is scarier. Facing what haunted us gives us power, not over each other, but over the shackles of our history. Otherwise, we'll remain trapped in its shadow." Her words resonated within him, igniting a flicker of determination. He could no longer allow the uncertainties to dictate his life. Not when his children needed him to forge a stable future. Not when Anna deserved more than the facade he had built. "Let's uncover it, Anna, together," Jack declared, a newfound resolve coursing through him like adrenaline as he contemplated the implications of his decision. He pictured their older selves, years down the line, free from vestiges of past betrayals. With the idea of unity solidifying, Jack recognized that indeed, personal confrontation would not only provide clarity, but facilitate growth. There was no easy march toward healing, but the arduous journey could mold their relationship into something more profound. The winds picked up, rustling through the leaves around them, as if echoing this collective commitment to truth. Yet, as his thoughts spiraled forward, so too did the gnawing sensation of impending confrontation. The decision to face what lay hidden was merely the beginning. An urgency propelled him forward. Could he wrestle with not only the ramifications of his family's history, but also face the inevitable fallout at his company, where trust hinged upon public perception? Would the revelations tear apart his professional image, or could they act as a catalyst for growth? "Anna," he murmured, under the growing haze of uncertainty, "what happens if we shake everything up?" "Then we make it new," she replied, her voice steadied by a potent tenacity. "But first, we must dive into the shadows." As they sat wrapped in this moment of shared accountability, Jack peered into the distance, visions of the boardroom flashing in his mind. The real transformation was yet to unfold, and anticipation swelled in his chest. Just then, his phone buzzed. A message from a member of the board summoning him for an urgent meeting that would change everything. Jack's heart raced. The time had come to face more than just his family demons. The walls he had built around his professional identity were about to be tested. What awaited him in that boardroom? Jack stared at his phone screen, the words of the urgent message still flickering before him as the playground noises faded into a distant murmur. His heart raced, not only from the task at hand, but the pressure to reconcile his professional obligations with the turbulent emotions swirling within him. His family's laughter felt like a distant echo, a transient reminder of what truly mattered amidst the chaos. "I have to go," he finally said, steeling himself against the weight of abandonment that threatened to pull him back down. Anna searched his eyes, desperately trying to discern his resolve. "What if they don't understand? What if it doesn't go as planned?" she pressed, anxiety clouding her features. He took a steadying breath, regaining a sense of control. "Then I will explain. I will show them what we're trying to build." A part of him wanted to cling to the remnants of joy they just shared, yet the relentless march of his corporate world demanded his attention. The boardroom awaited, a place where the intricacies of his identity would come into ruthless focus. As he approached his office, the polished hallways buzzed with the energy of his colleagues, their conversations swirling like a tempest around him. Jack's steps quickened. He could almost feel the eyes of the board members on him as he entered the conference room, a stark contrast to the nurturing space he just shared with Anna and the children. The atmosphere inside was thick with tension, each executive's face a mask of expectation and scrutiny. Jack positioned himself at the head of the table, forcing a confident demeanor as he surveyed their expressions. He could sense the weight of their anticipation pressing down on him. "We need to talk about the recent developments," he began, his voice steady but resonating with urgency. "The rumors circulating around our company." "Those rumors could undermine our stock valuations, Jack," one of the board members interjected sharply. "We need a solid strategy to quash them, not discussions of your personal life." "Exactly," chimed in another voice. "You must maintain the brand's integrity. Personal issues should be kept out of our professional narrative." Their words cut through him, igniting a spark of defiance. The stronghold of his past clashed violently with the emerging honesty Anna compelled him to embrace. But as the conversation ricocheted around the room like an echoing gunshot, he felt a crucial decision take root within him. "What if the truth is our strength?" Jack challenged. "What if revealing our struggles puts us in a position to rebuild trust?" "It's time to show that we are not just a company, but a team willing to face the difficult realities. Transparency could reshape public perception, perhaps even bring us closer to our shareholders." A heavy silence followed, uncertainty etched on the faces around him. For a fleeting moment, he felt untethered, a split between his roles as CEO and family man. The idea of vulnerability, so crucial in his personal life, clashed with the hardened persona he wore in the corporate world. Yet, as he looked at them, he realized that authenticity might serve as a bridge between these two realms. "Jack, this isn't just about your personal life," another board member cautioned. "This could destroy everything we've built." His pulse quickened at the prospect, yet a burgeoning conviction took hold. "Or it could help us construct something far more resilient, a foundation without secrets." He met their eyes, challenging them to look beyond their fear. As he ventured deeper into this unexpected confrontation, he sensed a critical turning point within himself, a willingness to unify his worlds. The echoes of laughter from the playground intertwined with the boardroom's somber ambiance, and for the first time, Jack contemplated how a personal metamorphosis could ignite professional renewal. But just as clarity began to surface, a doubt crept in. Was he prepared to face the backlash of such unprecedented honesty? One thing was certain: this gamble would reshape not only his legacy, but the very core of his being. As the meeting concluded, Jack stepped out, realizing that facing the fallout wouldn't just hinge on the boardroom's reactions. It also depended on confronting the shadows from his past. The most challenging decisions lay ahead, and the looming question remained. Could he reconcile the man he was with the man he aspired to be? Jack left the conference room, his mind swirling with the intense energy of the meeting. The weight of his decision bore down on him as he navigated the vacant hallways of his office, feeling like a ghost in a familiar space. The collective gaze of the board members haunted him, and echoes of their words reverberated through his thoughts. This could destroy everything we've built. Back at his desk, he combed through the financial reports sprawled before him. Yet the figures blurred, each line representing not just numbers, but the pulse of the business he had devoted his life to. Jack's fingers hovered over the keyboard as he wrestled with the urgency of the moment. How could he construct a strategy that fused both transparency and professionalism? He took a deep breath, consciously slowing his racing heart. Personal revelations could not merely coexist with corporate formalities. They needed to intertwine. This insight revealed itself as a powerful catalyst for change, not just within the company, but within him as well. As he contemplated the concept of vulnerability, he realized it could redefine leadership in his realm. Jack's thoughts drifted to Anna. A wave of warmth surged through him at the memory of her laughter, strong yet gentle, fueling his desire to embrace honesty, both personally and professionally. He decided to call her. The phone rang, each tone an echo of his increasing anxiety, until she picked up. "Hey, how did everything go?" Anna's voice washed over him like sunlight breaking through clouds, igniting a spark of hope. "It was intense," he admitted, running fingers through his hair. "But I think I can turn this around." I challenged them on the notion of honesty versus brand integrity. Silence hung between them, heavy yet charged with anticipation. "And?" "I made my stand, Anna. I told them that our vulnerability could be our strength." Jack paused, waiting for her response. The doubt whispered at the edges of his confidence, prodding him to brace for her hesitation. "Wow," she replied, a tremor of disbelief lacing her voice. "So you propose sharing personal struggles with the entire company?" "It's more than that," he rushed to clarify. "I want to illustrate how this isn't just a failure, it's part of who we are as a team. If we can contribute to rebuilding trust, it might just shift everything." Her sigh carried the weight of acknowledgement. "Jack, that's bold. You understand the risks you're taking." Yes, he felt the stirrings of determination within himself. But what if this is the moment to redefine our legacy, to prove that success isn't solely in profits, but in real connection? For the first time, he saw the potential success defined by deeper engagement rather than mere financials. After their call ended, Jack returned to his reports, but a dynamic energy coursed through him, new clarity. Purpose floated to the surface of his mind, prompting him to develop a concrete plan. His hands moved with renewed purpose as he sketched out a rough framework, envisioning communication strategies layered with personal stories woven through professional narratives. However, recognition of the potential backlash loomed. He envisioned the board members' skepticism transforming into resistance. The personal ramifications could alienate him from his peers. But was it not worth the risk? Jack's pulse quickened at the reckoning of such a choice. As he wrapped up notes, preparing for the staff meeting scheduled for the next day, he realized that he had two battles to face, one with the board and another with his own inner fears. Would he summon the courage to push through and begin this transformation? With this fresh determination, a new idea sparked within him. Should he share a personal story to lead by example? Perhaps illustrating the sacrifices he'd made for the family he cherished could forge a connection that his colleagues would find relatable. Jack drew a deep breath as he considered the path ahead, but one question remained, the undeniable challenge that lingered. Were his vulnerabilities the key to the change he yearned for? Or would they prove to be his undoing? The answer felt ominous yet liberating. The time had come to face both the board and himself. With the dawn of a new day approaching, he felt the pressing urgency tighten its grip. This journey was set to unravel the threads of his past, with the possibility of full-circle transformation looming ahead. As he stood by the window gazing out at the skyline, a revelation dawned upon him. It was time to shift the narrative. Could honesty genuinely lead to the professional rebirth he so desperately sought? The morning sun poured through Jack's office window, illuminating the documents sprawled across his desk. He took a moment to absorb the magnitude of what lay ahead. Today was critical. Complete vulnerability could either build bridges or burn them. Every heartbeat resonated with the duality of hope and fear. He stood up, pacing in circles. The walls felt as though they were closing in. Memories of past meetings raced through his mind, reminding him of his previous reticence to expose himself to criticism or rejection. He had always worn an armor of professionalism, a facade that made him predictable, but today that facade felt like a mask he was ready to shed. The thought of standing before his peers and revealing his personal struggles evoked both dread and exhilaration. Reflecting on his upbringing, Jack's memories surfaced unbidden. His father's unyielding expectations had instilled a drive for success, but at what cost? The sacrifices he'd made were countless, and in every self-imposed challenge, he distanced himself from warmth and connection. Discovering that honesty could transform his company was enlightening, yet the fear of exposing too much about himself tied knots within his stomach. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Lisa, his assistant, popped in, coffee in hand. She sensed his apprehension. "You okay, Jack? You look like you're about to face a firing squad," she remarked lightly, hoping to lift the weight off him. "I'm just thinking," he said, refraining from revealing the storm within. "Have you ever had to make a choice you knew could change everything?" She raised an eyebrow, grabbing a seat on the edge of his desk. "Every day, but I always ask myself, what's the worst that could happen? At the end of the day, it's just business." Jack nodded, realizing that Lisa's perspective offered him a glimmer of hope. It was about connection. But if that business affects the lives of others, people I care about, it gets complicated. Understanding crossed her face. True, but without a leap, you might never know how deep the connection runs. It sounds like you're on the precipice of something big. As she left, Jack's mind raced with possibilities. What if he emphasized the shared humanity of their struggles at the meeting? Rather than framing it as a liability, he could present it as a strength, a testament to resilience. With newfound conviction, he began to outline potential stories to share, moments that embodied the vulnerability he wished to express. His mind drifted to the night he had missed his daughter's birthday due to a late meeting, a memory that stung, yet clarified his resolve to reshape the narrative of his leadership. The door swung open once more, this time revealing a familiar face, Matthew, his trusted advisor. He squinted at Jack, who was scribbling frantically. "What's going on? You look like you're about to launch a mission." Jack chuckled half-heartedly, more like a suicide mission. The weight of the conversation loomed over him. Everything he wanted to express was hanging in the balance. Matthew leaned forward, his expression transforming from playful to serious. "You're going to inform everyone about your personal challenges? That's a bold move. Just remember, transparency isn't always a one-way street. Are you prepared for them to see you raw?" His words struck a chord. Jack realized that sharing his vulnerabilities didn't mean he'd lose respect. It could create an authentic connection that inspired others to step into their truths. And how would they respond? Would they find strength in him or merely judge him? With the staff meeting only hours away, the urgency to finalize his approach ignited. Jack needed to create a framework for this change, a way to channel both his personal journey and the company's mission. Blurring the lines between professional and personal could be the bridge he desperately sought. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as his phone buzzed, Anna's name flashing on the screen. With one finger poised over the screen, he pondered if now was the time to seek her counsel. But there was no room for hesitation. Before he could second-guess himself, he pressed accept. "Jack, you ready for today?" Her voice, adorned with warmth, was an anchor amidst the gale swirling within him. "I'm about to redefine everything," he replied, the weight of the moment palpable. Would he emerge fully transformed, or would he retreat back into the shadows of self-doubt? As he listened to Anna's encouraging words, an electric thrill coursed through him. Courage sparked within the uncertainty. Today would be a defining moment, a leap not just for him, but for everyone in that room. With resolve reconstructing his thoughts, one irrefutable truth bubbled to the surface. He had to face both the board and himself, standing up not just as a CEO, but as a man willing to unveil his truth. Jack tightened his grip on the phone. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were towering. Would the pursuit of authenticity reshape the fabric of his leadership, or would it unravel into chaos? The door to transformation was wide open, yet all he could do was step toward it and leap. Jack set the phone down with a steady hand, the conversation reverberating in his mind. He understood that stepping into that boardroom would feel like conquering enemy territory. His heart raced as he reflected on the nature of the challenges ahead. They were not just professional, but deeply personal. Each step toward vulnerability could ignite understandings previously buried under layers of corporate formality. With every tick of the clock, his thoughts began to crystallize into a coherent structure. His outline transformed into 4 key themes: struggle, sacrifice, resilience, and connection. They were more than just bullet points. They represented pieces of his life that were woven together in a way that might inspire those around him. Each narrative could serve as a mirror for the experiences of his colleagues, revealing the shared burden of professional life. He recalled times when he had felt lost in the maze of expectations. One particular episode stood out: sitting in a hotel room miles away from home while his family celebrated a milestone without him. The hurt of missing precious moments spurred an emotional fire within him, propelling Jack toward a deeper understanding of what it meant to lead with authenticity. He wasn't just a boss. He had teammates who were navigating similar storms, their own sacrifices often unnoticed in the corporate race. As he embraced this realization, he began to construct a compelling narrative, one that reflected both his pain and resolve, a clarion call for unity and empathy. Gathering the notes, he reviewed them meticulously. The room felt different now, less like a cage and more like a stage. He envisioned the faces of his colleagues, their eyes reflecting doubt and hope alike. What if his raw honesty could liberate them from their own silences? Jack knew that the path he was about to forge might remove the barriers he had carefully erected throughout his career. Would they see him as a leader, a flawed human being, or both? Suddenly, the notion of potential fallout intruded. A million questions swirled, each faint whisper of fear amplifying the stakes. Would his revelations be embraced or ridiculed? Would the board question his ability to lead, to perform under pressure after witnessing such a profound unveiling? The knot in his stomach tightened painfully, the specter of judgment looming larger each moment. He could feel his armor itching against his skin, begging not to be discarded. Yet the contrary voice, one of courage and authenticity, surged to the forefront, urging him forward. "Just be real," he murmured aloud, his own declaration resonating in the silence of his office. It was a reminder of the kind of leader he aspired to be, a leader who did not shy away from the uncomfortable but embraced it wholeheartedly. The clock continued its relentless march toward the meeting. With a steadying breath, Jack harnessed every last ounce of resolve and determination. Thoughts of his daughter bounced through his mind, nudging him into a clearer focus. He needed to make this count, not just for himself, but for her. He paused, monitoring his own heart's rhythm, ready to embrace the uncertainty ahead. As he gathered his notes and straightened his tie, a singular thought pierced through the cloud of anxiety. If his truth could spark one shift in someone else's heart, then it would all be worth the risk. The thoughts of a life unshared haunted him, memories untold, lessons unlearned, potential unresolved. With resolute steps, he exited his office and made his way down the corridor towards the meeting room. The line dividing fear and courage was growing thin, yet Jack felt he was prepared to step into that space of change and growth. Whatever awaited him on the other side of that door, he was ready to embrace it, ready to inspire real transformation. But as he reached for the handle, doubts crashed into him with unforgiving intensity. What if his truth did more harm than good? What if this attempt at authenticity alienated those he sought to connect with? Would his vulnerability shatter the very foundation he was trying to build? He halted for a brief moment, the atmosphere charged with uncertainty. The door before him was not just a physical barrier. It was the threshold between the old Jack and the man he was about to claim himself to be. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open, standing at the edge of a new narrative and the unknown. As the murmurs of conversation hushed to a silence, all eyes landed on him, their myriad of expectations hanging thick in the air. Jack stood at the precipice of a life-altering moment, feeling every heartbeat reverberate through the room. Would he leap into the depths of shared humanity or retreat to safer, sheltered ground? Jack stepped into the conference room, the air thick with unspoken tension, an electrified silence that demanded his full attention. The polished table stretched before him, surrounded by familiar faces, each person a story woven into the fabric of his career. As divided as they might be in their views, this moment demanded he find a common thread among them: vulnerability. "Thank you for gathering," Jack began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Today, I want to share something personal." The gaze of his colleagues, often critical and calculating, now bore a hint of interest wrapped in apprehension. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his prepared notes shifting in his hand. But he realized that today was not about notes. It was about connection, raw and unfiltered. He began to recount the story of that night in the hotel room, the empty echoes of laughter from a celebration he would never forget. It was an experience that held profound significance, not just as a missed event, but as a revelation of his own priorities. As he spoke, Jack noticed the body language around the table subtly changing. Colleagues leaned in, some nodding gently, as though he was unlocking a hidden door. "Many of us have felt this pressure, the burdens that come with our roles," he continued, gauging their reactions. "I've been so consumed by the expectations that I've neglected to acknowledge the true cost it extracts, not just from me, but from all of you." He could see it on their faces, the flicker of recognition, the resonance of their own struggles. But as he unfolded his narrative, Jack confronted doubts that flared like sparks in his mind. Was this courage or folly? Would his ignition of fear and sacrifice be perceived as weakness? Yet, within that fear lay a seed of empowerment. As he shared his truth, he realized he was dismantling the barriers he had spent years meticulously constructing. With each word, the line between vulnerability and strength blurred. He spoke about resilience, the trials that had shaped him, and his understanding of leadership. Then came the moment he had anticipated, the point of connection. Jack touched on the theme of empathy, the realization that no one faced their battles alone, even within the corporate jungle. Leading isn't just about making decisions and driving profits, he asserted. It's about understanding the sacrifices our teams make every single day. We are each other's support system, whether we acknowledge it or not. As he concluded his narrative, something awakened in the room, an energy pulsating from his honesty, reverberating through each individual present. Colleagues exchanged glances, some with glistening eyes, as if they dared to envision a workplace where their struggles were acknowledged. There was an unvoiced agreement brewing, a collective willingness to step forward into a new paradigm of communication. Still, as Jack absorbed the tide of emerging support, a shadow cast over his thoughts. What if his sincerity ignited a backlash? Would some perceive this as a signal of a leader without control? He kept those questions at bay, recognizing the importance of this moment. Today marks a shift, he declared with renewed vigor. It's time we lead with authenticity, to genuinely see each other, to unite not just in our work, but in our lives. The meeting room erupted into spontaneous applause, genuine this time, not dictated by hierarchy. Jack felt a surge of emotion well up within him. Each clap was a validation, but the room also vibrated with a new kind of tension, the potential for real change within the culture of their company. However, as the meeting transitioned into discussions on next steps, shadows of doubt lingered at the edges of Jack's consciousness. Was he ready for the implications of this shift? Would the management above embrace a newfound culture, or would resistance lie ahead? He kept those questions at bay, recognizing the importance of this moment. Today marks a shift, he declared with renewed vigor. It's time we lead with authenticity, to genuinely see each other, to unite not just in our work, but in our lives. The meeting room erupted into spontaneous applause, genuine this time, not dictated by hierarchy. Jack felt a surge of emotion well up within him. Each clap was a validation, but the room also vibrated with a new kind of tension, the potential for real change within the culture of their company. However, as the meeting transitioned into discussions on next steps, shadows of doubt lingered at the edges of Jack's consciousness. Was he ready for the implications of this shift? Would the management above embrace a newfound culture, or would resistance lie ahead? In that moment, Jack realized the journey had only just begun. He had taken a brave step, but now he needed to navigate the complexities of change with a heightened sense of purpose. The fulcrum had shifted, yet he felt an urgency for greater confrontation, a reckoning with higher management who might not be as willing to embrace vulnerability. Jack's heart raced, tension rising anew. The time had come to face the real challenge, beckoning him with an unresolved question. How far was he willing to go to transform not just his team, but the company as a whole? In the hours following the meeting, Jack found himself caught in a whirlwind of thoughts, each conflicting and clamoring for attention. The applause had sounded like a thrilling overture, yet the lingering doubts created an unsteady foundation beneath his resolve. He navigated through emails and messages, his mind racing as he weighed the potential backlash from a leadership structure resistant to emotional transparency. He considered his own trajectory, how far he'd come from the ambitious young executive who once believed that stoicism equated strength. The day wore on, with Jack forcing himself to stay focused, but distractions lingered in every corner of his mind. He couldn't escape the challenge awaiting him, conversations with upper management who might view his authenticity as a threat. As the clock struck 5, a knot in his stomach tightened, compelling him to confront these leaders rather than retreat. He paced his office, the glass walls reflecting a man both determined and apprehensive. The soft hum of the city outside faded as he became engrossed in a mental duel. Should he present his vision of vulnerability as a necessary evolution for the company? It was exhilarating to consider this new direction, yet equally daunting to risk his standing in an environment that often prized unflinching determination over human connection. Fueled by uncertainty, he sought refuge in a quiet corner of the office, an empty meeting room where he could hear himself think. He closed his eyes and recalled the faces of his colleagues, their expressions shifting from skepticism to resonance. The vulnerability he had displayed was met with a longing for honesty and a readiness to bridge the gaps created by years of corporate culture. What if he approached management with this sentiment? Would they embrace it or dismiss it outright? Jack realized he needed to craft his pitch with precision, recognizing that he had to appeal to the decision-makers not just with emotion, but with clear benefits for the company. He began to jot down his thoughts, aligning the principles of vulnerability with productivity, collaboration, and innovation. His pen raced across the page, turning doubt into a structured argument. Authenticity fosters trust, and trust fosters collaboration, Jack wrote. When we acknowledge our struggles, we build a team committed to overcoming obstacles together. As he mapped out his presentation, energy surged through him. The psychology behind team dynamics flooded his mind. He envisioned values such as empathy leading to improved morale, greater transparency, inciting higher retention rates, and a culture rooted in understanding, creating pathways to unprecedented innovation. By the time he stepped out of the meeting room, the fog of uncertainty had lifted, revealing a renewed sense of purpose. He had a plan, but the real test loomed ahead. An encounter with the senior management, the very individuals who might define or derail his vision. Would they be receptive, or would Jack once again find himself trapped in an echo chamber of traditionalist resistance? As he stepped into the elevator, he felt a profound shift. The cacophony of doubt now harmonized with resolve. This wasn't just about him and his career. It was about reshaping the ethos of an entire corporation. The elevator door slid open, and he entered the boardroom where he would voice his ideas. Jack took a deep breath, steadying his resolve. The stakes were high, and failure could mean a return to a culture of silence that he was determined to dismantle. As he approached the seated executives, a thought pierced through his focus. Would he be able to stand his ground if they resisted? The question echoed in the recesses of his mind, setting the stage for an inevitable confrontation. With his heart racing, Jack was about to unveil a vision that could either redefine their corporate landscape or thrust him into professional isolation. What awaited him beyond this moment? Jack stood before the board, the polished table reflecting the tension hanging in the air. The room was stifling, filled with the apprehensive gazes of the senior executives, each a reminder of the high stakes. He took a deep breath, centering himself amidst the palpable pressure. "Thank you for allowing me to present today," he began, forcing himself to meet their eyes. "I want to talk about something that has the potential to transform not only our company, but how we perceive ourselves as leaders." The murmurs quieted, expectant. He could feel the waves of anxiety washing over him, but as he opened his notes, he realized he held something powerful, his truth. With every word he spoke, he wove a narrative of vulnerability, sharing his story of personal sacrifices and the toll that ambition had taken on both his family and professional life. Leadership isn't merely about financial success, but about the ability to connect on a human level, he asserted, feeling a swell of conviction. When I began to embrace my vulnerabilities, I observed a shift among my colleagues. Our shared struggles are what bind us. Transparency fosters trust, which in turn can enhance collaboration. The board members shifted, some exchanging glances, as he laid bare the ideologies underpinning his newfound vision. He spoke not of abstract theories, but of actionable insights. How an emotionally aware and connected workforce can drive innovation and boost productivity. The board members shifted, some exchanging glances, as he laid bare the ideologies underpinning his newfound vision. He spoke not of abstract theories, but of actionable insights. how an emotionally aware and connected workforce can drive innovation and boost productivity. The apprehension that had initially enveloped him transformed into an electric energy as he continued. This isn't merely about me, it's about us. Our future as a company hinges on our ability to foster an environment where everyone feels seen and heard. Imagine what we could accomplish as we dismantle the walls that have kept us separate. Together, we can create a culture that cultivates empathy and empowers our employees. Jack could sense that the temperature in the room had shifted. Heads nodded slightly, uncertainty intermingling with curiosity. It felt as if he were forging a bridge between surrendering to vulnerabilities and channeling those very issues into strength. Each statement was a testament to his evolution, and he watched as the narrative he spun resonated with them. Suddenly, the room erupted with questions and objections. He was prepared for this. He had anticipated resistance. "What about the bottom line?" one executive questioned, leaning forward in his chair. "These discussions won't fill our shareholders' pockets." Jack felt the air thicken with challenge, but he leaned into it. Authenticity and profitability can coexist. When employees feel empowered and valued, the resulting engagement fosters productivity as well as innovation. A fulfilled workforce is the driving force behind sustainable growth. We can redefine success. He paused, letting his words sink in, steadying the ship amidst the turmoil. Have you ever wondered about the toll this corporate culture takes on your well-being, on our collective creativity? He continued, hopeful. By being open about our struggles, we foster a unity that can take us to unprecedented heights. I know because I've experienced it firsthand. As he concluded his pitch, a flicker of transformation passed among them. Jack recognized in their eyes a glimmer of acknowledgement, the embers of curiosity igniting a potential spark of change. It was clear his sincerity was taking root. But the most remarkable revelation came from within. Jack felt anchored, for he had finally embraced his identity, no longer split between his roles as a leader and an individual, but a singular being woven into an intricate tapestry of personal and professional aspirations. He was not merely advocating for a shift in culture, he had manifested that change within himself. Moments passed, thoughts exchanged. A senior board member broke the silence. "Jack, you've brought up compelling points. Perhaps it is time we reconsider our leadership approach. I believe we all experienced your honesty. It resonated." A collective wave of murmurs of agreement seemed to ripple through the room. The tide was turning. The foundations beneath them began to shift, each acknowledgement a brick laid in a new path toward unity. Jack could feel their receptivity, their willingness to embrace change, and it sparked something deep within him, a sense of achievement that reaffirmed his commitment to authenticity. In that moment, he realized that he had conquered fear, proven his ability to galvanize a team towards shared humanity. He had not only achieved a significant milestone within his company, but had finally broadened his understanding of what it meant to lead with authenticity. This was about more than just a professional trajectory. It was about leaving a legacy defined by resilience and compassion. As they wrapped up the meeting, Jack felt lighter, a heavy weight lifting from his shoulders. The fear had melted into the invigorating thrill of possibility, a newfound clarity that reaffirmed who he was both personally and professionally. He had embraced his vulnerabilities, integrating them into a strength that propelled him forward. Jack Mercer was no longer just a billionaire CEO. He had become a recognized leader rooted in genuine connection, a man who had conquered not just an empire, but the barriers within himself. That day marked a significant chapter in his life, one where he transformed not just his company, but himself. As he left the boardroom, the horizon seemed brighter, the air thicker with potential. Deep down, he knew this was the true beginning of a profoundly enriching journey, not just for him, but for everyone around him. Achieving this balance brought with it the satisfaction of knowing he was finally, unequivocally in his element. Now, my dear audience, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire and engage you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this journey of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. What did you think of Jack's transformation? And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this resolution and witness the power of authenticity and growth. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this unfolding narrative. The revolution of change starts with you.